there's no thing here for me to put my feet.
It worked!
Damn chair. Can I put them on yours? Damn it!
Get those moon boots away from me.
This is an unpaid advertisement. I have these really cozy shoes, but they're very cushiony, so Ackles hasn't left me alone the entire time. Nice stilts! Nice high heels.
Originally, they were used for Frankenstein. You notice the 8-inch sole underneath his feet. And no, it's too early. How's everybody doing today? Can we just get a nice round of applause for the band?
The important parts of the band. Rob isn't here right now.
That's the first time Norton's agreed with you in about six months.
Well, I don't know about that. Hey! That's a good question. He'd have been pretty angry, it seems like.
I think if and when John comes back. I actually had a conversation about this last night with his lovely wife, Hillary. And I was like, I mean, he'd come back, right? And she's like, yes, he will. So he may not know, but the decision's been made for him. But I think when that does happen, it'll be interesting because there, in my opinion, I think there will be a slight power struggle on behalf of the sons and their father, because the brothers have essentially been running the show now in his absence ever since. So you get Dad coming back in, assuming a bit of an authoritative role. I think it might lend itself to some interesting dramatic scenes.
See, I thought he went to Walking Dead so that he could kill Lauren Cohan for having messed with the boys in season 3.
So he's going to come back with lottery tickets. It's going to be a winner, and we all live happily ever after.
We all get baseball bats. You know, the first experience I had with it, I guess with Tom and Shep, I know Dad obviously is not even 2 years old yet. With Tom and Shep, their kids don't really know, and their buddies in school. And I guess Tom and Shep know that Uncle Jensen is on TV with Daddy, and this and that and the other. But my niece is, she's 10 years old, and I remember about 2 years ago, she started going, "Hey, Uncle Jared, why are my teachers asking if I know you?" And I was like, and she's old enough to grab a computer and Google search and stuff, so hopefully she doesn't watch scenes with Uncle Jared and Jen.
Well, even if the kids don't know you, I'm sure the teachers are.
Say again?
I'm sorry, even if the kids don't know you, I'm sure the teachers are all.
Well, I was dropping off JJ the other day, and there's a security guard there at the school, and this was the first time I'd met him, and as I was walking by, he just kind of put his hand on his belt, and he just kind of leaned over. He's like, "You're not packing, are you, Dean?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." So the students aren't quite there yet, but certainly the faculty.
Yeah. Side note: the security guard's name is Safe. Yes, SEIF, Safe. It's like that's awesome.
It's a good code name.
It's a good code name. The correct answer. You mean?
I have really bad stage fright, and so I was wondering if you had any tips on how to get over it.
Do you have any tips? Because I 20 years on camera, I still. Oh, that's a good.
I'll tell you one thing that helps us here right now is that the lights coming from that side and the lights coming from that side prohibit us from seeing anybody out there. So we're hearing a question coming from you and delivering it out to just blackness.
We also go back to work on Mondays a little more tan than we left because we're sick.
A little more cooked.
Yeah, a little more cooked. I think we're well done now.
You know, I don't think it's easy for the majority of people to get on stage and speak, and I will say that finding a way to get comfortable with that is different for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's the old trick of picturing everybody naked, which I don't think ever works, but you know, it might for somebody. Apparently it works for Norton. But that's just weird because he does that walking down the street, so yeah, it's just a daily habit.
How do I look, Norton?
Cold. I said cold. Anyway, don't think about that.
Before we go off on a tangent, I think what's helped me, I've had a chance to thank Alexander. This is going to sound kind of, I don't want this to sound mean-spirited, but the only thing that, not the only thing, the main thing that kind of helps me if I do get stage fright again is reminding myself that it's not my job to control what other people think of me, as long as I'm doing what I want to do. So you're not going to be able to control if somebody wants to say mean things or nice things or love you or hate you or whatever their predispositions are. So just be yourself, do what you want to do, and own it, and know that it's your job to make yourself happy.
Yeah. In the same breath, I would say that, however, if that frightens you, be open and honest and vulnerable like that, which can work. I think it works for you. I think he and I we can be authentic because we're comfortable doing so.
We have y'all's support also, so we
we're playing to a fairly hot audience, so. But also, this is a trick: is get up on stage. If you have to deliver a speech or you have to address an audience, play a character. It doesn't have to be widely different from you, but that way you can kind of go somewhere and you can play somebody and you can do something that's maybe a little more comfortable for you to do, to present to themselves, and maybe not so vulnerable. That could work as well.
What was your favorite scene to shoot throughout the entire series and why?
Oh, easy. You know what? There's no way I can really think through all the scenes right now, but one of my favorite scenes to shoot. Two of my favorite scenes to shoot.
She asked for two.
No, I can't choose, and I'll let you think of yours. So one of my favorite scenes to shoot was, and this was, I truly believe out of 14 or 13 years and 7 episodes on the show, this was the most nerve-wracking scene for me as Jared Padalecki to ever shoot as Sam Winchester. And that was the scene where Jared Padalecki was playing Sam Winchester, playing Jared Padalecki, playing Sam Winchester. It was, I mean it, like that, I wasn't even trying to be funny or acting, I was just nervous. So Alexander, that was like season 6 or 7 and I was still nervous. 6, sorry. So that scene, the scene of acting with Misha and everybody going like, what is going on with these guys? In hindsight, that was one of my favorite scenes to shoot, because and on what other show and what other universe can you do that? And the second scene I can think of that was one of my favorite scenes to shoot was, I don't know if it's the same one where we carved our initials into the table in the middle of his bunker, but it felt really real. It felt like, it almost in a sense felt like, because I remember the line that Sam had where he says, you know, what is our legacy going to be? And it kind of felt weird. You know, Jensen and I are filming in this set that we've been filming in for several years, and that didn't even exist until the show had gone on for several years. And it almost felt like we were talking to each other, like, man, the show someday is going to end, you know? Sorry. It's his fault. I'm never going to quit it, he's going to do it. Just kidding. No, but it felt like a cool scene to sit back. He and I are workers. we enjoy the process and the work. But we're not really the type to reflect on like how cool it's been to be. It's more like got a job to do, slam the trunk. Even in real life, we're very focused and great, cut, next scene. Let's go rehearse a new trailer. Let's go run through it on set. Blah blah. That felt like a cool, like just a second to toot your own horn and move on.
Yeah, for me, it's those a favorite scene is hard to choose from. It's more favorite moments, and those moments obviously occur during those scenes. I think of moments when I think like, oh, what's your favorite episode, or oh, what's your favorite season, what's your favorite scene, that kind of stuff. It's not a scene in its entirety, or an episode in its entirety, or even a whole season. It's these moments that occur while filming, and I could list a dozen of them. One doing a reverse 80 in Baby, or reverse 180 in Baby, in doing that. I got to do that several times. The first time I did it, I loved the moment of our guest star sitting next to me. She's in the
It wasn't me, it was she.
And she just looks at me, she's like, "You've done this before, right?" And I looked at her, they were literally like, "And roll camera!" And I'm like, now's not a good time to ask you that. And then there's moments like, I'm just talking to Brianna backstage, and one of my favorite moments is trying to make her laugh while shoving my face full of donuts. And that's great on two parts. One, trying to make this person who understands comedy at a high level, and also can hold her stuff together at a high level, trying to get her to break. And then the kicker was, I got to eat donuts for the whole scene. So there's the show, and the memory of the show is made up of those moments, and those are the highlights in my mind. And I'm very thankful for many of them.
But really quickly, if anybody is recording this on an iPhone and going to post it to YouTube, the real answer is, my favorite scenes are all of the ones with season 4 Ruby, and his favorite scenes are obviously all of the ones with Sister Joe. Obviously. And cut. Thank you.
As if she's gonna watch this.
Jordan.
Hi. So I just wanted to say that you two are very inspirational to me, especially you, Jared. So my question is there someone in your life who inspires you? Well, you both can answer.
Say it again, Jordan.
Is there someone in your life that inspires you?
Yeah, and I'll say. We all understood. Thank you so much. But I understood your question. And one of the most inspirational people to me is honestly Stephen Norton. Just kidding. You know what? I know what you're saying. I don't know what you're saying. I think I understand what you're saying, but I guess remember this also, and I know you do. When was the first AKF campaign? It was like 2014? 2015. So I had known and worked with this guy for the majority of my days and nights for 7, 9, 10, what's 2015 minus 2005, 10? So...
I was told thered be no math when
I hate saying this in front of him, but I mean, there's so many people that inspired me, but to spread the love, please do remember when y'all thank me that this guy had 10 years of influence before I was fine, before I felt comfortable enough to go like, hey, this is what's going on in my world behind closed doors, and I want to put it out there. So applause for this guy. There are obvious things. My wife is amazing. I'm trying to think of people. You know what? I love to read, but I especially love reading nonfiction books. I'm so inspired and intrigued and my curiosity is piqued, and I'm so motivated when I read about somebody else's struggles. You know, I sit in traffic for 5 minutes and I'm like, I always have bad traffic. And you go, wait a second, like, this person dealt with this, I've dealt with blah and blah blah, so. I think if I can say anything, and I'm trying to look for something poignant, I fully believe that if you know anybody and they have not inspired you yet, then you haven't asked the right questions. Everybody's story is amazing, and everybody's dealt with something, and it's not your fault necessarily. Maybe they don't feel comfortable yet sharing what they've been through, or what they think, or what they know. But I was told by somebody, and I can't recall who, but to look for something interesting and unique and wonderful about everybody, because everybody has it. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's not your fault. You just haven't known them long enough, or asked the right questions. So continue to be inspired by everybody around you, and life will be good.
If Dean/Michael is the new king of heaven, and I think Sam is going to use all the power and resources of hell and become king of hell to fight Michael and save Dean. So in reality, it'll be like one king of hell, one king of heaven fighting against each other, like the previous show intended. So what do you think that will be like for the brothers, and what do you think, how do you think Sam and Dean are going to handle this? If that is the case. Speculative.
I totally have an answer for this, and I understand you completely, but just in case, will you say it all again?
Like saying Dean is king of heaven through Michael, and you are king of hell. Like using that. How do you think it would be for the brothers to fight as king?
I got it. Let me.
I just think you're awesome.
I'm not quite sure what that would look like, but I know what it wouldn't look like. It wouldn't look like the end of season 13, where we're strung up on wires fighting in a church. I mean, it's like a damn puppet show. Felt like Team America. It was like a marionette. It won't look like that, I can promise you. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's maybe we'll find out.
I love action movies. I love superhero movies. I love fight scenes, and I love mixed martial arts, and yada yada. What interests me the most is the reason somebody's fighting. And I'm a big, I mean, this is maybe can upset some people, but I'm a big UFC fan, and I enjoy the art part of martial arts, and I love chess. But I would much rather see the two best fighters on the planet talk about why they're fighting. It's almost a joke, you know, you always see James Bond movies where the guy could just shoot a gun because James Bond is tied up, but he's like, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, Mr. Bond. And you know, they always talk like Mark Shepard, whom I love. But it's always the exposition part, which can be so boring. I'm so much more interested in why somebody is doing what they're doing and what they're into. So maybe in a boring sense, my ultimate climactic scene of a movie is not they punch and they dodge and they kick and they smite. It's more like, this is why I'm here, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's a verbal tit for tat. Finding out about what makes somebody tick, not how they end up ticking after they have the motivation. Getting to the base layer, the foundation of what makes them who they are, not if they can throw a good sidekick, or if they can do a good two-finger smite to the forehead, like Cass. You know, I want to hear like what his story was about. So I guess if this show existed, I would rather see, and those, going back to a scene about earlier confrontations and earlier favorite scenes, I love those scenes where like the scene between Pellegrino and Spate when they're talking about being brothers. This is season like the King of Hammer, what Hammer of the Gods. That scene when they were talking about growing up, or even at the end of last season, spoiler alert, when Pellegrino is trying to endear himself to Jack, and Spade's like, no, man, I've been with you for eons. Like, don't lie to me. I know who you are. I know who you've been. That's more interesting to me than, you know, people on strings or CGI effects to have somebody explode or something. Those are all great and wonderful, but I feel like those are the gravy. Whereas as we say in the South, the chicken fried steak part of that.
So just to be clear, instead of having Michael, the King of Heaven and the King of Hell, have some big, massive, epic CG battle scene to end all days, you'd rather have inside the actor's studio.
Correct. Correct.
I mean, look, give me a Transformer any day.
Will there be helicopters? But what's going to explode? That's just those over there.
Wait, real quick, just so you guys know, what's the capital of New York?
Albany.
Old York? Damn it!
Old York is what he said.
I knew Albany. It was New Hampshire.
Oh, what's the capital of New Hampshire?
Old Hampshire.
Old Hampshire?
No. Damn it! Sorry. Hi.
Hi, my name is Emily. First of all, I just want to say thank you for your Always Keep Fighting campaign, and in general, your characters, the whole show, you guys are amazing. So
Thank you, Emily.
My question is for both of you, actually. I want to know what your new favorite, funniest moment on set is.
That's a great question. Thank you, Emily. We've had a lot of stuff. What are you thinking of? You go first. Oh, you think about this past week? It's going to make the gag reel, I'm sure, but there's some stuff that happened in the filming of episode 7. Let's just say it involves Jensen, Misha, Alexander, and me, and it's sort of become
There's a lot of improv.
So there's a lot of improv, probably some broken ribs. Yeah, some broken ribs, I'd say. Maybe a torn spleen. No, there are some funny. So it makes me laugh because for years it was Jensen and me teasing Misha. Season 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then Alexander came on season 13, and Misha's like, finally.
New victim.
Yeah, new victim. And every now and again, it's a funny thing. Where Misha will make a joke and look to Jensen and me, and we'll be like, no. Damn it! But yeah, the hazing of Alex has gone on way too far, but it'll continue. And he's a great sport about it. He's probably cursing us before he goes to bed. Voodoo dolls?
Well, yeah, and let's just say, as I don't think it's any secret that Jack's vessel has, his being has gone through some dramatic changes at the end of last season, and that picks up.
Puberty.
Right. And that picks up at the beginning of season 14, and his vessel is having some difficulties adjusting to his circumstances. And so he's having challenges. It's like almost like getting very, very sick. And let's just say he collapsed a few times. His character, obviously, collapses a few times in this episode that we just filmed. Which, of course, him hitting the floor is just a green light for a doggy pile. So it's just dog pile central for the entire episode. And he's not a big guy. We are.
Yeah, during photo ops, I was like, whoa, you guys are gorgeous and tall. Wow.
But the funny thing is, Misha jumping in too is so excited to be on this side of the fence. He's like the first,
real excited.
He's like the first to dive. and poor Alex, he's gonna need to see not only a doctor but a therapist as well.
We calculated it's about 600 pounds laying on Alex every time he falls on the ground. That's a lot of weight. Yeah.
I will say though that after about the 4th or 5th take, he started like full defensive positions on the floor.
Full butterfly?
Yeah, and our stunt coordinator had to come in and start helping defend him. It's not professional.
And hopefully you guys enjoy this. He and I are making a concerted effort to, when something goofy or silly happens, we make sure to say, because when they call action and they start rolling, when they call cut, let's say you do 3 takes of a scene, they'll usually only print the 1 or 2 or 3 of, let's say you do 6 takes rather. They'll print 1, 2, or 3 of the best ones, but you know, 1, something went wrong, the lighting was wrong, or we didn't hit our marks, or we forgot our lines, and sometimes there's a goofy one, but they have to say to the script supervisor, make sure you print take 3, even if it's just them goofing around. So I know a few times we've both been like, hey, make sure you print that so it can be part of the gag reel. My goal for this season is to have like a 2-hour gag reel. Amen. Thanks, Emily. Hi.
Hi.
She's playing Scramble with Friends.
My name is Emily too. So.
Emily 2, that's a strange name. Is that
What?
German? Emily 2, how do you spell 2?
Sorry, I'm really good at this.
TWO.
Oh, you know, that's funny. Because it could be
Or
T-O-O.
TOO.
That actually works. I'm sorry. So, legitimately, a lot of my guilty pleasures are songs from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, but there's nothing guilty about that.
Yeah, because they're classics now.
No, we're just supposed to know like a song that you would be embarrassed to tell everybody that you're gonna tell everybody.
Baby Shark? Is that a song?
Well, I'm embarrassed for you.
I legitimately did not think that was a song. Take It Off?
Now, this is a family show. Come on. This is.
You know any?
No, I'm not embarrassed by any stupid music.
Like what?
Well, let's see what's on my phone here.
Does Groove Is in the Heart count? And it is. It's right here in the heart. What? Barbie Girl? What is it? I'm blue. Da-dee-da-da.
I'm trying to think who sang that.
Water? No, we're fine, thank you. You need some water?
I don't.
Madonna's badass, so we got. Love you some.
I don't really.
Holidays good? What, Mbop? I have Mbop on my phone. I've paid for Mbop. But again, that's like 90s. What's your guilty pleasure song? You have a guilty pleasure song?
Well, I have like a whole guilty pleasure playlist, but if I had to pick one, probably Africa by Toto.
Oh, we need keys for that, don't we?
What about Rosanna by Toto?
Yes,
Toto's
that's my
amazing.
second favorite.
See, that's 80s and 90s, and I got voted out for having 80s and 90s guilty pleasures. What do
Does
you
it count if the guilty pleasure is a strict result of your kid?
Yes.
Okay, so JJ likes to get fired up on her way to school, and she makes me like turn it all the way up for that song, Fight Song. Rachel like Platten, is that it?
That's a good song. There's a great voice.
Yeah, but it's not something I'm gonna. But here's the problem: is that I'll play it when she's not in the car too. Be like, "Be my fight song, take me back," and I'll be at a red light, and I'll just look over. It'll be like some cool guys, and I'm like, "Yeah."
You got it all wrong, because you have tinted windows, so you need to go, this is my daughter likes it. Point to the back seat. Let me think about
I
that.
don't know. That's one for now, but I'm sure that'll change in 6 weeks,
Yeah.
and I'll be singing some other person's song that I've never heard of before.
Emily, too, in honor of your vote, I'm gonna go with Toto Africa for now, but I'll think of something.
This show does start to wind down.
Also this, I hope this cat continues to act, and I'll happily buy a ticket for me and my family to go watch. I would like to back away. I'd like to get, here's my dream life. From where I sit now, this is not a word of a lie, things change. But I would love to basically, stop acting, and hopefully if my buddy calls, one of my favorite jobs I ever had, and this is so stupid, well, it's not stupid, it's just so weird because I went uncredited for it, but I got a phone call from a director, and his name is Sean, and he's like, hey dude, Tom doesn't want the bully at school to be shorter than he is. You mind coming in for a couple days? I'm like, sure. I made, $100 a day or $100 a week or something like that, like the absolute minimum, and it was for cheaper by the dozen. It was just cool, yeah. But it was just like, sure. I was living in LA at the time. They were shooting in downtown LA at some school, I believe, Pasadena or something. And so, that's one of the reasons I love these conventions, is because I both get to see people that I worked with years and years ago, and see people that I've traveled the world with and been to Rome, like all over the place. And it's like catching up with friends. Like I feel like if anybody could design a perfect life, if you were a billionaire and you weren't one of these kind of Elon Musk people who just had to be working all the time, it's like my favorite thing to do in the world would be like reunions with my buddies once a week, and see everybody. I mean that, bottom of my heart. So I feel like my dream job would be to not have a regular job, but to get a phone call or email from a friend like, hey dude, we need somebody with a big forehead to come play this character. And I pick up the phone and be like, cool, let me check with the family, and I hope to see you there. So that's fingers crossed. He turned me on to a movie, The Strangers. The Strangers? Oh. It's good. And so, what? House of Wax.
Yeah, House of Wax. I won't go to a wax museum anymore.
My favorite horror movie, legitimately though, is New York Minute, so I don't go to New York a lot.
I will say, since you brought it up, The Strangers is one of my favorite scary movies. And it has left an impression on me, so much so that a lot of times I find myself at night when I'm at home. I have a good sized front yard, and it has lights in the trees that have pools of light in the yard. When I walk by the front windows, I'll look out there and it'll just be darkness with like these kind of pools of light. And almost 100% of the time, I expect to see somebody standing there. And it is because of that movie. And obviously they're wearing like a happy mask, but they're just standing there like this in the pool of light. That would send me into a frenzy. And by that I mean that would send me to my gun safe.
Until you said it, the same thing. So our property has cameras all over the place. And one of the camera systems sends alerts. So every now and again I'll be home in Austin, and it'll be, like midnight 30, and I'll get bling, motion, a sense in front yard. And I'm like, do I want to look, or is there somebody standing there? Because oftentimes it's just the light changes slightly, or the neighbor drives his car,
Or lightning, or
a bug next to the camera system. And I'm like, I'll make sure the doors, Genevieve makes me walk around all the doors and windows before going to bed to make sure they're closed and locked. Probably because of that movie.
I'll leave you with this. I'm not a word of a lie. The other day, this was maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was in my living room, and I was watching the late night football game. Everybody else had gone to bed. and I kind of you can see my front porch from, if you're sitting on the couch, out the windows. And I looked out there, and the porch lights were on. You could see the porch, but then it kind of just disappeared into the darkness. Which then you get out into the yards and you get the pools of light. But just in that pool, that light that was the front porch. And this is another movie that's played on this fear that it originated from strangers, is The Purge. And I sat there and I instantly envisioned several people in masks walking into the light. And now this means that they're on my property. B, they probably aren't here to, hand out Girl Scout cookies. And 3, this was my greatest fear, is which way do I go first? Do I go to my closet to get something to protect myself and my family? Or do I go to my children's rooms? And I sat there and I started sweating, thinking about this, what would I do in that moment? Would I go to protect my children, barehanded? Or would I go this way and hope that they don't beat me back to them? That was a real fear I had. And it struck me, and then I was like, well, I'm turning this off and going to bed, because I can't enjoy this game anymore. And those were fears that were born out of movies like that. So,
Hi, my name is Dana, and I wanted to say you both are absolutely brilliant, and especially Jared with your way of nonverbal.
Actually, I didn't do that well in the SATs, I gotta be honest.
Especially Jared with your nonverbal way of showing you Sam's trauma whenever he was around Lucifer. So how exactly did that come about? Was it all you, or was there input? And for Jensen, how is Dean's emotional reaction going to be when he's no longer Michael?
Thank you. On behalf of both of us, the Lucifer thing started out as an accident. Honestly, when the whole Lucifer saga started 10 years ago, in case y'all wanted to feel old, it was written in because it was legit fear. And I think, I get down the Wikipedia rabbit hole and the Google rabbit hole trying to figure out what victims of PTSD or trauma kind of experience. And oftentimes, if not dealt with, most times, I guess, if not dealt with, it's a consistent, irrational fear and reaction. So even when Lucifer lost his power, or I was safe, I wanted to make sure to give credence to the idea that Sam he had this bit of being around his tormentor, being around his attacker. And so that it became something that the writers trusted. They didn't need to write into the stage direction. They knew that I'm very protective of my buddy Sam. And he's very protective of his buddy Dean. And so I just kind of tried to work that in as much as possible. And there were even lines that I would call the writers and producers and be like, hey, this kind of indicates Sam being frivolous with Lucifer, and it works better for Dean. And Jensen would be like, absolutely, because he has the kind of wry gallows humor. So yeah, before y'all see Supernatural, a lot of work has gone into it, but a lot of work has gone into us trying to figure out every second, Thank you.
I think you'll see, as far as the Michael thing, when Dean becomes Dean again, as we know he will. I don't think that's a spoiler alert. In true Dean fashion, he is greatly affected by that experience, but he pushes it down and puts on a brave face and doesn't want to talk about it, which only means that it's going to rear its ugly head later in the season, and we'll see how that works. I have not read, we haven't gotten that far yet, but that's what I understand is going to happen.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
say hi to Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Say hi to Jensen too. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
So you are our last question. So
You're freaking out?
I don't think you've ever been.
I have never been to a convention before.
Oh, this is how they all happen. Everybody gets up here.
Yeah. It's never like this. It's usually about a third of this crowd. So I'm just kidding. It's always like this.
I'm sorry. She wants you to go away.
I'm not nervous because of the crowd. I'm nervous because of you guys. That's.
So.
You just mean so much to me.
Well, ditto. So.
What's your question?
My question was why you decided to pursue acting in the first place.
Interesting. That's a great question, Sarah. Thank you.
J-Rod, you want to take that one?
I'll start. So I always thought it was interesting. I was always kind of motivated and inspired by movies and the ability to tell stories. I was never great at telling stories in person. I certainly like to play around and goof around, but I was always fascinated by storytellers, people who could hold a crowd, who could tell. I enjoy reading and I enjoy art and this and that, but I just feel like I lost myself. And I would actually kind of alter it a little bit to say that I at some point, I didn't any longer pursue acting. Acting sort of pursued me. And this wasn't because I got a job, this was in middle school, where, you know, I remember going to high school, and I was not a big person in high school. I'm a big person now. Big person, little world. But I think when I got to high school, it got to the point where we'd have football practice and basketball practice and drama, and I'd have to choose one or the other. And I couldn't escape the idea of doing plays and reading scripts and the camaraderie that comes with telling a story together. So I always dreamt of the idea that you don't have to be on TV or in movies to be an actor. You can act at school, you can act into the video camera at home for YouTube, you can act at the local theater. So at some point in time, I just couldn't, there was nothing else I couldn't, you know? I don't know about this guy.
Basically, he means he's a one-trick pony. I got into it. My father was in the industry, or is in the industry. He did a lot of local work in Dallas, with voice work and commercials and some episodic stuff. And you know, I kind of looked at that, and I guess I almost unknowingly followed in his footsteps. And I remember him saying, like, "Listen, this could be a very fulfilling career. It's going to be a very fulfilling job. You get to, you know, you have the opportunity of working with very talented people and collaborating with very talented people, and you know, the artistry that you can create with these people can last a lifetime. It can be very fulfilling, and you know, I can honestly say that I'm up here today, standing next to some people, and I'm still waiting for that to happen. And
And I know how it feels.
it's, I will say, it was something that, again, like Jared, was something that I started out doing early, and once I went that way, I just kind of never looked back.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, SPN family.
You guys winded? Are you right there? Well, I look at each other like, I got dizzy. It's a long. It literally might be the last question if we lose Rob and Jensen in one fell swoop.
Sad news today. Jensen Ackles and what's his face?
It was a great con. It got weird when Jensen and the other dude died. I'm pretty sure it was Spade. Jensen and Spade died. It wasn't me. That's Rob. Crap. You guys know this because it's all over the arena here. 100 conventions we've done for Supernatural. This is the 100th creation convention. We found the sexiest person we could find to bring out a cake to celebrate this event. A little sweets from a sweet to say, hey, it's been 100 conventions, let's represent it. Get out of here. Come on, Gangly.
Come on, come on.
Sometime tonight. Christ, forget the candles, Jesus. There you go. It's America's sweetheart, Chris Schmelke, who's carrying the cake. Walked right past Jared and Jensen. But Chris, you've been here longer than anybody. Thoughts, feelings?
Hi guys, how are you? It's over, believe it or not, a decade ago that I met Jared, then a year later Jensen, shortly after everyone else, and I wouldn't be here without their love, their support, without you guys. Stand-up is one of a kind. It's special to my heart. Love you guys. These guys are the most genuine people I've ever met. I've been in a lot of fandoms. I've been around 75 years. I only have 18 hours here, so I'm going to be short. I love you guys forever. I'll always have you in my heart. Love you.
And quickly, we all love Schmelke back. He's been there for tens of thousands of years and moments that for all of us, for a lot of us, for most of us, for all of us, last a lifetime. Which is why this is also for everybody to Mr. Schmelke. All right, so let's all blow this.
Well, celebrating 100 supernatural conventions.
1, 2, 3.
Good people, Chicago's, the Cincinnati, the Triple-Lucky, that's Chris Schmelke! Somebody get Bob on that. We got love, charity. Get a brother, get a nickel. I listen all the time.